Dear students, we are in the chapter elbow complex, and we are in the now heading to the 13th part. So now we'll discuss about the muscles of the forearm, that is the superior and inferior radial ulnar joint, which consists of muscles are the primary muscles associated with the radial ulnar joints are pronator teres, pronator quadratus, biceps brachii, and the supinator. So we have two muscles for pronation and two muscles for supination, which are the primary muscles of the radial ulnar joint. The pronator teres has two heads, a humeral head and an ulnar head. The humeral head comes from the common flexor tendon on the medial epicondyle of the humerus. The smaller ulnar head arises from the medial aspect of the coronoid process of the ulna. Both heads attach distally to the surface of the lateral side of the radius at its greatest convexity. The pronator quadratus, which is located at the distal end of the forearm, also has two heads, superficial and deep. Both of these heads arise from the ulna and cross the interosseous membrane anteriorly to insert on the radius. The fibers of the superficial head pass transversely across the interosseous membrane, whereas the fibers of the deep head extend obliquely across the interosseous membrane to insert on the radius. The biceps brachii has been discussed previously. So we have already discussed the details of the biceps brachii muscle. So you can no need to repeat it again. You have all the idea about that in the earlier classes. The supinator is a short, broad muscle that arises from the lateral epicondyle of the humerus, the radial collateral ligament, the annular ligament, and the lateral aspect of the ulna. The muscle crosses the posterior aspect of the interosseous membrane to insert into the radius just medial and inferior to the bicipital tuberosity. So these were the four primary muscles, and two were pronators and two were supinators. Another group of muscles that are active during supination and pronation, especially when gripping by the hand is involved, and during recession motions, include the flexor carpi ulnaris and the extensor carpi ulnaris, the brachioradialis and the flexor carpi radialis, the extensor carpi radialis brevis, that is given in short form as ECRB, and the anconeus. So all these muscles are not the primary muscles, they are accessory muscles, which are especially when gripping activity or recession motion comes into play. So basically this is to show you the action of, now we are going to the functions of the radial ulnar joint. Basically you have only two motions in the radial, that is one is supination and one is pronation. And here you can see in the pronation the radius is the distal end of the radius crosses over the ulna, and you can see the thumb, that is the thumb is coming to the medial side. Here this is the radial side, this is the thumb is here in the radial side, and then here it comes to the middle side, that is a pronation. So axis of the motion functions, we are coming to the functions. The axis of motion for pronation and supination is a longitudinal axis extending from the center of the radial head to the center of the ulnar head. So it will pass from the center of the radial head to the center of the ulnar head. In supination, the radius and the ulna lie parallel to one another, whereas in pronation, the radius crosses over the ulna. As I have already reiterated, there is very little motion of the ulna during pronation and supination. motion of the proximal ulna is negligible. So the motion of the ulna is proximally, there is very negligible motion, and compared to the radius, the overall movement for ulna is comparatively less. Motion of distal ulna is of less magnitude than that. So when you compare the motion of ulna and radius in pronation and supination, the radius moves more than the ulna. But distal ulna compared to the proximal ulna moves comparatively, distal ulna moves more than the proximal ulna, and proximal ulnar movement is negligible. So most of the distal motions of the distal ulna is of less magnitude than that of the radius and opposite in direction to the motion of the radius. The ulnar head moves distally and dorsally in pronation and proximally and medially in supination. Therefore, at the distal radioulnar joint, the ulnar head glides in the ulnar notch of the radius from the dorsal lip of the ulnar notch in pronation to a position on the palmar aspect of the ulnar notch in full supination. So therefore, you have to understand that in the distal radioulnar joint, the ulnar head glides in the ulnar notch of the ulnar head will be gliding inside the notch present in the radius from the dorsal lip of the ulnar notch in pronation to the position of the palmar aspect of the ulnar notch in full supination. Now, what we understood, the axis of that is a longitudinal axis which is in the between through the head and of the radius as well as to the radius head of the ulna, and the range of motion is the total range of, because we are talking about a motion which is from full, that is in the normal anatomical position is what we call as full supination. So from there to till to the maximum range of, that is pronation, the total range is 150 degree. The total range of motion of 150 degrees is possible in the radioulnar joint. The range of motion of pronation and supination is assessed with the elbow in 90 degree of flexion. But even though we are talking about supination, the axis, and even in longitudinal axis, but to measure, we have to ask a person to measure the range of motion. We have to ask a person to flex the elbow to 90 degree of flexion, and we will understand, we will discuss why we have to do that. This position of the elbow stabilizes the humerus so that radio-ulnar joint rotation may be distinguished from the rotation that is occurring at the shoulder joint. Why, while measuring the range of motion of supination and pronation, we should ask the patient or the person should be flexing the elbow to 90 degree. Why? Because if he doesn't do that, he or she doesn't do that, we will be also the isolated movement of forearm will not come. Why? Because the person may rotate his or her shoulder joint, so we will not get the exact range of motion of supination and pronation. So to avoid the movement of humerus, like in the glenohumeral joint, which may show that there is increased supination and pronation. To avoid that, we should ask the person to flex the elbow, and when the person flexes the elbow, shoulder rotation will create internal and external rotation. So we have to fix the humerus and flex the elbow to 90 degree. Then you will get only, you can isolate the radio-ulnar joint motion. And this position of the elbow stabilizes the humerus so that radio-ulnar joint rotation may be distinguished from the rotation that is occurring at the shoulder joint. When the elbow is fully extended, active supination and pronation occur in conjunction with shoulder rotation. Limitation of pronation when the elbow is extended may be caused by. So limitation of pronation, while there is a few degrees of limitation of pronation will happen if somebody is extending and trying to pronate. And you yourself, students, you can try that. Flex your elbow and try to pronate, and extend your elbow and try to pronate. There will be a slight difficulty in getting the free range which is available during elbow flexion. What are the reasons for that? Here I have stated the reasons. The reasons are passive tension in the biceps brachii. One reason for limited rotation when the elbow is extended may be caused by passive tension in the biceps brachii. Next reason may be bony approximation of the radius and ulna to the humerus. One is bony radius and ulna compressing, approximating together, and also to the approximating to the elbow joint. That is approximating to the humerus. Tension in the dorsal radioulnar ligament and the posterior fibers of the medial collateral ligament of the elbow. So these three reasons, which is the last one is two for this reasons, that is the dorsal radioulnar ligament and posterior fibers of medial collateral ligament, which will give some kind of resistance to full pronation. Supination is limited by passive tension in the palmar radioulnar ligament and the oblique cord. There it was the opposite, dorsal radioulnar ligament and the posterior fibers of the medial collateral ligament. That was in the case of pronation. But here supination is also limited by a passive tension in the palmar radioulnar ligament and the oblique cord. The quadrate ligament limits spin of the radial head in both pronation and supination, and the annular ligament helps to maintain stability of the proximal radioulnar joint by holding the radius in close approximation to the radial notch. So here you understand the importance of quadrate ligament as well as the annular ligament in the stabilization of the range of the joint by their reducing or giving us resistance to the range of motion also. So we'll come to the muscular action, the muscle action in the forearm. The pronators, we already discussed the muscles, so we'll discuss the muscle action. The pronators produce pronation by exerting a pull on the radius, which causes its shaft and distal end to turn over the ulna. The pronator teres has its major action at the radioulnar joints, but the long head as a two joint muscle plays a slight role in elbow flexion. So just showing you the pictures of the muscle pronator teres and the pronator teres and the pronator quadratus. Here this is pronators pronation muscles, and this is a supinator muscle. And here I'm showing you only the muscle supinator, and here we are only showing the insertion of bicep because the orientation of the bicep muscle. So this is the radius, and here it is biceps tuberosity, radial tuberosity where the biceps is coming and inserting, and this is a muscle supinator which is inserting here. The pronator teres contributes some of its force toward stabilization of the proximal radioulnar joint, in as much as the muscle's translatory component helps maintain contact of the radial head with the capitulum. So the pronator teres, even though acting as a pronator, it has a kind of stabilizer to keep the radial head within the capitulum. The pronator quadratus, a one joint muscle, is unaffected by changing positions at the elbow. The pronator quadratus is active in unresisted and resisted pronation and in slow or fast pronation. So pronator quadratus is a one joint muscle and it does not have any role to play in the elbow joint, whereas pronator teres, being a two joint muscle, has a role to play, secondary role to play in the elbow and primary role to play in the forearm. The deep head of the pronator quadratus is active during both resisted supination and resisted pronation and is thought to act as a dynamic stabilizer to maintain compression of the distal radioulnar joint. So the pronator quadratus, along with being a good one joint pronator, It also, because it is attachment, it